Hello, everyone. Welcome to Celsius 233, your go-to place for fiction book summaries. Today, we will enter the world crafted in the Iliad by Homer. The Iliad, attributed to the ancient Greek poet Homer, is one of the oldest and most influential works in Western literature, traditionally dated to the 8th century BC. Set during the Trojan War, it focuses on a few critical weeks during the 10th year of the war, chronicling the wrath of Achilles and the consequences that unfold from his anger. The poem explores themes of heroism, honor, fate, and the destructive nature of war, framed within a mythic battle between the Achaeans, Greeks, and Trojans. Plot summary. The war between the Achaeans and the Trojans had been raging for nearly 10 years when a bitter dispute erupted in the Achaean camp, igniting the fury of the greatest of their warriors, Achilles. It began when Agamemnon, the commander of the Achaean army, offended the god Apollo by refusing to return Chryses, a Trojan captive and the daughter of Apollo's priest. In retaliation, Apollo unleashed a plague upon the Achaeans. Under pressure, Agamemnon finally agreed to release the girl, but demanded compensation for his lost prize. He claimed Briseis, a captive belonging to Achilles, the mightiest warrior of the Achaeans. Achilles, enraged at this insult to his honor, withdrew from the war, cursing Agamemnon and vowing not to fight. Without Achilles, the Achaean forces began to falter, and their desperation grew as the Trojans, led by the noble Hector, pushed them back toward their ships. Though the gods watched from Olympus, their favor constantly shifting, none could diminish Achilles' wrath. In his anger, he prayed to his mother, Thetis, a sea goddess, who promised to seek the intervention of Zeus to ensure the Trojans' success, making the Achaeans suffer for Agamemnon's arrogance. As the war waged on, the absence of Achilles on the battlefield became painfully apparent. Hector, beloved prince of Troy and its most skilled warrior, led the Trojans with valor and strength, gaining ground with every clash. The Achaeans, on the brink of defeat, begged Achilles to return, offering him treasures and honors, but he coldly refused. His heart was hardened not only by Agamemnon's insult, but also by his growing realization of the futility of life, the fleeting nature of glory, and the inevitability of death. The tide of war grew bloodier. The Trojans breached the Achaean defenses, threatening to burn their ships and cut off their escape. Patroclus, Achilles' dearest companion, could not bear to see his comrades fall. He begged Achilles to let him wear his armor, hoping that the mere sight of Achilles' famed shield would rally the Achaeans. Reluctantly, Achilles agreed, but warned Patroclus not to pursue Hector too closely. Donning Achilles' armor, Patroclus charged into battle. His presence reinvigorated the Achaean army, and for a moment it seemed as though the tide might turn. But Patroclus, emboldened by his success, ignored Achilles' warning. He pressed deeper into Trojan lines, where the god Apollo struck him down, leaving him vulnerable. Hector, seeing his chance, delivered the fatal blow. As Patroclus lay dying, he foretold Hector's own death, for Achilles would seek revenge. When Achilles learned of Patroclus' death, his grief and rage were boundless. The death of his friend shattered him, and in that moment, his anger shifted from Agamemnon to Hector. Overcome with guilt and sorrow, Achilles swore to avenge Patroclus by killing Hector. Thetis, hearing her son's cries of anguish, went to the gods and procured new armor for him, forged by the god Hephaestus. Clad in this divine armor, Achilles re-entered the war, unstoppable and fueled by a burning desire for vengeance. Achilles' return to the battlefield was like the resurgence of a deadly storm. No Trojan could stand before him, and even the river gods, disturbed by the slaughter, could not stem the tide of his wrath. The gods, too, took sides, some helping Achilles, others Hector, but nothing could change the course that had been set. Achilles was fated to confront Hector, and the two greatest warriors finally met outside the gates of Troy. Hector, though brave and noble, was fated to die. He faced Achilles, knowing his end was near, but fought valiantly nonetheless. Achilles, driven by unrelenting fury, chased Hector around the city walls before finally striking him down. With his dying breath, Hector begged Achilles to return his body to his family for proper burial, but Achilles, still consumed by rage, refused. He desecrated Hector's body, dragging it behind his chariot for all to see. Back in Troy, Hector's death brought immeasurable sorrow to his family. His wife, Andromache, lamented the loss of her husband, knowing that their son would grow up without a father, and that Troy would soon fall. Priam, Hector's aged father and the king of Troy, was overwhelmed with grief. Desperate to give his son a proper burial, Priam did the unthinkable. He snuck into the Achaean camp, alone, and knelt before Achilles, begging for the return of his son's body. Priam's plea touched Achilles in a way nothing else had. Seeing the old king weep for his son, Achilles was reminded of his own father and of the human cost of the war. Moved by Priam's courage and sorrow, Achilles finally relented. He returned Hector's body, allowing Priam to take him home for burial. For the first time since Patroclus' death, Achilles' heart softened, and for a moment, the cycle of rage and revenge was broken. The war, however, was far from over. Achilles knew that his own death was near, as had been prophesied. He had achieved glory on the battlefield, but the cost had been great. The Iliad ends not with the fall of Troy, but with the funeral of Hector, the noble warrior who fought to protect his city, his family, and his people. This was just one story. Homer has plenty more for you to discover. Check them out in the description or on Celsius 233. Remember, while our summaries capture the essence, they can never replace the full experience of reading the book. If this summary intrigued you, consider diving into the complete story, buy the book, and immerse yourself in Homer's original work. Bye-bye, take care, have fun.